Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I am Gino Buccola alongside Ashley Mailloux with producer Lucia helping us out. And it is opening weekend at Ellis Park. I was very impressed by the entries for an opening few days at Ellis Park. Some big fields. And we're going to preview one of those for the Sunday Pea Patch, which is the race of the day. But before we get into that one, let's remind you about the 4th of July sale over at shop.drf.com. 15% off almost everything in the DRF shop. Use that coupon code July15 off. Past performances, handicapping products, and more. Ashley will be sprinting on the turf for the Sunday race of the day. And remember, you can get free past performances for the Sunday race of the day. The Pea Patch, 5.5 furlongs and $150,000 up for grabs. I think we look at a couple interesting horses in the middle of the field, like Vodka with the Twist, who is multiple grade 1 placed, but will be trying turf for the first time. We have a horse like Rich City Girl, who's been very fast, but there's a good amount of speed in here in this big field. I thought an interesting group to handicap.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see Vodka with the Twist, right? Has yet to try the turf, had plenty of opportunities if they wanted to when this one was out west or even before on the East Coast. And after the runner-up finish last time out at Churchill, she stayed in the East Coast, right, with a couple of workouts at Churchill. So when they've made a decision to switch her surface, she's going to be a short price based on her resume alone, Gino, but I don't think she's a lock, especially knowing this is something she hasn't done. And we can talk about her turf pedigree or her Tomlinson number for the grass. I don't know. I think this is a really wide open event. And I think some of the horses that are more in the, say, 5-1 to, 12, 15-1, they're a little bit more intriguing.
Let's take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector. Remember, you can purchase these shop.drf.com. They're part of the package with the all access past performances, or you can get them individually with the Timeform US past performances. Hold Your Breath down on the inside seems to be one of the quicker. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see them using that position. Then you have Lovely Emma, who I think wants to be close. You have Rich City Girl, who's really quick. I mean, I could see any one of like 5 or 6 of these horses up front and pushing it, because there seem to be some pretty quick fillies in here, Ashley.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the rail runner, Hold Your Breath, she faced an okay group last time out, especially off the layoff. I think that's a good starting point. Her numbers, world of difference between the dirt. So like this spot for her. I like the way she's drawn. I think she's going. You mentioned a couple other horses. The 6 Rich City Girl, she can't be that far off of it. I think she's going to be forward once again. Even in her one turf effort, that was the case, and that was at Kentucky Downs, which plays a little differently. So fast pace. I don't know how quick it will be. We'll have to see how maybe some of the earlier races play. There's not a ton of, though, races going short, right? There's 2-mile turf races before that. So at least there's a couple of days of racing to get a feel for the sprints.
Let's meet the field for the Pea Patch, starting out with Hold Your Breath, who got the lead early. And this was a pretty easy victory for a horse who was almost 30-1, right? You just don't see horses clear the field and keep going like this. But no knocks, Ashley. This was the first start on the grass for her. She was very impressive. I mean, she showed ability in her career debut at Parks, but sometimes when horses win a maiden race at Parks, you can't really get a feel for how good they are. She certainly showed she has talent with this one.
Absolutely. And just talk about, it's a different surface, but a lot quicker on the grass as well with the way it was playing. And no knocks on that performance. Obviously, she's going to get tested for class. There are some stakes winners in this group, horses that are graded stakes winners, but her speed is going to play in her favor, I think. And, really other than that, we'll see what she can do. I think this is a good spot for her to kind of test these horses.
The 2 Mez California has tried grass twice, but both of those races were going longer on the turf. Even recently, she hasn't really been competitive against this level of horses. She beat a 50 claiming group 2 starts back. What do you think about the 2's chances in here?
Yeah, she's going to be a huge price. I don't see it. Obviously, her most recent win was a better number, certainly, than the maiden score, which came against $30,000 maiden claimers at Turfway Park. But it was on the dirt. I thought it was good. I just don't like how she ran after that in that first level allowance. She just wasn't as competitive. And sure, she wasn't really as forward as well. And you look at the time, they actually went a little bit, slower, Gino. I know it's a different day. Things change. Maybe it was the quick turnaround, but she's going to be a pass for me.
Initially, I went right by Anna Karina. I started to warm up to this one a little bit more. Like, if you're looking for a big bust out long shot in here and a horse underneath, I think you could do worse than her, Ashley, because she faced She's So Spicy in the Mademoiselle last time out, and that horse went over to Royal Ascot and took a shot against really tough runners. 2 starts back, that race at Fairgrounds, sitting off the pace a little bit, that's the type of trip that could actually work out pretty well in a race like this. And if you go to the 2 turf races before that, looked like she was just kind of building things up. One of the races had a little bit of trouble. So while I don't have her in the mix of my top selections, I could see her being completely dismissed, being a horse who I at least used in some of the bottom of exotics, because I don't think she's as crazy as some of the other horses in here who might be really big prices.
She's not crazy. She's not impossible. She's tough for me to take just because the inconsistency. I mean, the win was really nice down at the fairgrounds, but then she went to the sidelines, and obviously they tried at the grade 3, like you mentioned, 95-1 in there. And she only beat 1 horse. She would have needed to show a little bit more, in my opinion. And I just don't know the trip that she's going to get. Obviously, they went a lot quicker last time, and she just backed out of it, where when they went slower, she could hang around. I don't think she's going to get that setup where they're going slow early. So I think it works against her.
Ashley, every now and then I like to put on my salesman hat, and I got to try to sell you on a horse or two. And we'll do that again here with Pondering. I like this filly very early in her career because she wins her debut at Ellis, and then she goes into the spinaway at Saratoga in her second start. She was only 5-1 there. And I think you could have made an excuse because it was on a muddy track. And a lot of people did, because in her third start, again in a grade 1, she's only 7-2 that day. So they've always thought really highly of this filly, but she comes back from the bench, and she's basically, after being pretty much eased twice in a row, back-to-back races, she loses the rider. So she's got all these weird things happening to her in like 4 consecutive races where she basically doesn't finish 2 races in a row. Then she comes back twice in a row. The rider falls off. She comes back on March the 16th, an improved effort where at least she crosses the wire with the jockey aboard. And then we see the step forward a little bit in the Churchill race on the grass. I thought that was a much better effort. She was sitting close. Last time out, it was like it all kind of came together. She was off the pace a little bit. They were flying, and they just timed things way better with her. Waited behind horses. She was in some traffic. She got an opening in between horses, and she shot through. It was almost like 3 or 4 of those races of trouble, and everything kind of came together for her for that one big performance. You're pointing out big field, a lot of early speed in here. I hope they just choose the same sort of tactics where they'll take a hold, sit towards the middle to the back of the pack, and try to make one late run. It's, when you've been fan of a horse for a while, you want to keep making cases for them, and you always feel like there's some ability there. She put it all together last time out. Can she do it one more time against a tougher group in here?
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, you don't see past performances like this, right? Where you
Right.
see a horse get eased and then you have to regroup as a 3-year-old. You lose the rider twice for different reasons, right? But
Yep.
still, it's kind of a mess in terms of the past performances. And Brendan Walsh and the, Team Godolphin, they've been patient. They've put her in some spots. And, you might say, well, that first level allowance at Horseshoe Indy wasn't great. But you mentioned she got the pace set up. She got a nice figure for it. She looked good doing so. She's not impossible at all, at least for a good piece in here. I'm not talking about a minor. I mean, I could see her finishing second and third against this group. And I think you still need to demand value on her. She was a very short price at Horseshoe Indy. Makes sense why. But against this group, just because some of the other resumes are a little bit more consistent and just stronger, you need a price on her, I think, to better.
How about lovely Emma in here, who's been 3-1 or less in all of her races? She's been favored in 4 straight, and she won't be in this race because she's just facing a tough group in here. But she's better than that most recent race on the good turf course at Belmont and Aqueduct. That was her first start in about 5 months. She ran like she probably needed that race. So I expect her to take a step forward, but there's speed on all sides in here, Ashley. It's not going to be an easy spot for her.
Yeah, that hurts her, I think. Kind of looking at her defeats is when she gets pressed a little quicker. And that win, the maiden score, she went to the front, and she has never seen a half go 46. They almost went 46-1. And that's just my concern, right? I don't see the pace going 46-1 in here. I think there's going to be pressure. Obviously, if someone misses the break and she's out there by herself, she could be tough. But I can't really see that happening. As you mentioned, there's plenty of speed.
Rich City Girl is very, very honest filly. She's a stakes winner on the dirt, and the only race where she didn't really run was going long on the dirt in the grade 1 Alcibiades. So that's not really relevant to this turf sprint. If you can eliminate that race, she fits really well. Second start back off the break. There's a lot of things going in her direction. I'm just a bit worried about the way the race shapes up, because even though she can sit a little bit, she might still be caught up in a very quick early pace.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually see her sitting a length or so off of it.
Nice. I hope so. That's probably her best chances in here, right?
Yeah, and I think, when she was defeated in the debutante at Ellis Park, a little bit of a different ball game. You kind of look at her races since then. Her one bad race, the only one in my opinion, was going a mile and a 16th. So draw a line through it. Look at the Prairie Meadows race, the Goldfinch. It's just different, right? It's a different circuit. It's a different sort of race. I think she sits in here. I mean, she could go. I just don't know. Again, is she that quick? Is she going to be that quick on the turf or turf race? Kentucky Downs, when you look at those races, they're really hard to figure out how they're going to play. And it was different, right? It was 6.5, but working well, connections do well. I think at 8-1, she's very intriguing.
Vodka with a twist, multiple grade 1 place, tries the grass for the first time. So I respect what she's done on the dirt. Doesn't have many bad performances. You see Tenma and Immersive and some very nice fillies in her past performance running lines, but she'll probably be a shortish price in here in kind of a wide open race. So while I wouldn't be shocked at all, Ashley, to see her win this or to run well, I'm kind of looking for others who I think might offer a little more value and who we know are more proven on the turf right now.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is the surface. You look at the mare, just one start in her career, it was the dirt. You look at the offspring of Bourbon Anarchist, and I think one of them might have a synthetic win muddled in there. To me, it's not necessarily screaming grass. You also look at the offspring, 1,000 Words. It's kind of a weird spot to find her. Like I said, she hasn't tried the turf since then, but I'm all for trying new things. So I'm not going to judge it, but it's going to be a short price. I know she's that talented, but if she's, running second in a stakes race, June 8th at Churchill, it kind of makes you wonder why she's coming here on the grass. I don't know.
I wonder if this is sort of like a cutback thing for her, just to get a little shorter distance and see if they have more punch, and they figure like, okay, this is a good spot to go a little bit shorter, even if it is on the turf. Kimchi Cat right next door is a multiple stakes winner. I didn't see a ton of turf pedigree there on the dam side, at least. Can you make a case for her first start on the grass?
Yeah, no, she's another one that little bit tough to figure out. I mean, there's an okay turf performance for the mare. There's, races at Arlington Park on the synthetic, but Offspring, not as much. But she's intriguing. She sort of has a little bit of a feel of Pondering, but in a different way, where she has some really big races and then just one of them goes off the rails and you wonder what happened in those. One was the Pocahontas. Maybe it was the mile last time out. 7 ace in the 8 bells. I also think about how the race played out. Top 2 were pretty close to the action. She was a little further back than she's been, so maybe she doesn't like that, and they went quick, right? So I don't think she could be forward. Be curious to see how quick she is from the gate here. You look at those 3 wins, Gino, she has to be in the mix early, and I don't know if that works out for her here.
I thought Brindy was one of the tougher reads in here, because she's a 4-time winner, so we know she likes to win races. She's won on the turf, and she's a stakes winner on the synthetic. We actually have a replay of her most recent victory right here up at Woodbine. This was on May the 17th, and this was her second consecutive stakes win on the synthetic sprinting. So, like, positive with all of her resume, but this is a little tougher than what she's faced. I don't know how far out of it she really wants to sit. Like, I respect her. Just another step up for her in a tough spot.
Yeah, it is a little tough to get a feel for her performances up at Woodbine. When you look at how horses have come out of them and run, some of them have run really well. They've been stakes placed in their next outings, but it might have been against Ontario breds. It might have been against the New York breds. I think the other thing to talk about with her is her figures. Her last 2 figures are her best by far, and it's just a different surface. Maybe she's different now at the age of 3 than she was at 2, when she kind of only raced on the grass. So I like that she's getting back on the grass. I like that Sophia Vivas is booked to ride. Obviously, kind of a nice thing, right? You've won 2 stakes for us. Let's keep you aboard here. But what's the tactics? I think the Star Shoot I am more impressed by. I think, yes, she had to work a little bit last time out on the Ruling Angel to hold on, but it was going further. I think when I look at the race back on April 26th, she was cooking on the front end for that surface, especially. Yeah. So you might look at some of the times and go, I don't think she's that fast. I think she's pretty fast, and she might be part of this pace or close enough to it.
Mighty Ariu and Grade A, the next two right next to each other, actually come out of the very same race on June the 8th over at Churchill Downs. They finished second and third that day. Mighty Ariu, who finished second, was actually favored in that race. Grade A, who finished third, was actually 18-1 there. So we can start with Mighty Ariu. The two races that she didn't really run well in the U.S. were both against She's So Spicy, who's a very, very good sprinter. The other two were solid, but those were in allowance and maiden races, and this is another step up here facing Stakes Company. What do you think about Mighty Ariu?
Pretty sure I liked her in the Mamselle. That didn't work out so good for me, Gino. I think you kind of look at the bookends of her stateside performances. They're good. They're very good. The in-between, not so much. Liked her performance last time out. You mentioned it wasn't stakes competition. Grade A exits that. We can't really gauge it. It was on June 8th, and no one's come back to run since then. So I don't really know what was behind her. I do think the interesting thing, though, is they're going to put blinkers on her. Her two performances that she's run well here, non-stake, but she was closer to the action. I wonder if this is based on her race last time out where she did sort of hang there, give her a little bit more focus, kind of keep the edge on her a little bit. That's my guess for the blinkers going on. It's worth noting, though, she's cross-entered elsewhere, so very curious to see where she ends up. Maybe a horse you could use underneath.
Grade A will probably be a little more speedy of the two that we talk about that come out of that very same race. I think with the draw towards the outside too, the best chances for Grade A have to be trying to use some of that speed and get as close as possible and not hooked wide.
Yeah, and for her, I think her last performance is her best that we've seen to date, right?
Yeah.
By far. I know she hung a little bit. That's my concern with her. Really expect the trainer, Jerry O'Dwyer, here and the work that he does. But I think this is a tough ask for her, knowing that the horse are inside. If she stays, there's already finished in front of her. I think there's a couple more things to like about the 10 over the 11. She'll be a big price.
And we move to Maytown. Ashley, the only real concern I have with her is the outside draw because her body of work is very good and everything makes sense. She's run a faster buyer speed figure in each of her 4 starts. All of those races are sprinting on the turf. She's run at 5 and at 5.5 furlongs. She has versatility, but more recently she's shown this great running style where she can sit really close. So my first glance through was, she's going to be hooked really wide, but that running style might give her the chance to kind of get into a nice spot and maybe not have to be 4 or 5 deep and maybe sit in the 2 or 3 path from the outside.
Yeah, the outside draw isn't ideal, but I think when you're kind of looking at your past performances and you're going through, say, Formulate or any of them, look at the configuration of Ellis Park. Look at where 5.5 is starting compared to some other turf courses. She got some time. She doesn't have a ton of time, Gino, but she has more time than she could potentially at a different racetrack. And I think that's key. She's quick enough that she may have to go a little bit, but then can tuck over, right? I don't think she needs to break on top to save some ground. And I think her body of work, to me, very consistent, well-managed, loved her performance last time out. And I think if she's anywhere near 10-1, she's a horse that I think it has a really big shot in here. It has taken a step forward each and every start.
And as we move to selections, you and I both, I think, looked at this race the same way, where we have some of the top players like the 6 horse Rich City Girl and the 7 Vodka with the twist in the under spots. We respect them, but we're looking for a little bit more value on the win end. You're going to go with the 12 Maytown.
Yeah, I could never use Vodka with a twist on top in here just because I don't know the turf. I know she's the class of the field. I get that. I can see that. We all can. But I think when you start to look at the turf form, I thought Maytown was really intriguing. We mentioned the draw is probably the big drawback on her, just having to be so wide, different draws than she's had in the past. But love the body of work, and I love her running style. We saw in the time form US pace projection, it might be quick, might come from the rail, might come from a couple of others. I think she's going to get the sweet trip in here. So love her, especially if she's 10-1. That's the key.
12, 7, 6, 1 for Ashley, 4, 6, 12, 7 for me. I'll throw Pondering on top. But I mean, I could make cases for horses like Hold Your Breath and Brindy. They wouldn't shock me at all. I couldn't even get them into the top 4. It's a competitive race. The one thing Ashley and I are both doing, we're looking for a little bit of value in here. So whoever you play, however you play them, we wish you the best of luck.